Vanakkam, Sasriyakal, good evening and welcome once again to Ganesh Shot. और गणेश शॉट में आज एक हटके प्रोग्राम करेंगे, something different. We'll talk about Mao, Deng, Xi Jinping, and the personality impact he has had on India, and in fact all of them, right? So that we're gonna do it with General Dushyant. Good evening, General Dushyant. Welcome to the show. An honor to have you back with us.
Good evening, sir. Good to be with you back again. And yeah, let's try something
Yeah,
different.
let's try something different. हर बार पाकिस्तान और चाइना के बारे में बात करने से अच्छा है
बात करते हैं.
कुछ
No
और
doubt.
बात करेंगे आज, right?
Let's try.
And
Let's
yeah, we will talk something different.
absolutely.
इसी बीच मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि ए, या 23 मई को यानी कि ट्यूसडे के दिन
Yeah.
we're going to have an update and open house, right? I'm going to give an update. We'll talk something about Pakistan. A lot of questions which are coming to me about Russia and Ukraine war and what lessons to be drawn. We'll see what lessons. Of course, I've done a video on it, but I'll still go over a few. And how do we correlate it with the Chinese, scene? And then, of course, a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions, very interesting questions, if I might say. Uh, Unfortunately, when you take a subject and a few questions come up, you're bound by time and all that. So I'll give a lot of time for people to ask questions. Many people have said कि भाई आप लाइव शो में पूछिए, तो ये लाइव शो में आके वो क्वेश्चंस डालिए, I'll answer. Okay. In the meanwhile, we'll get back to what General Dushyant has to talk about and his presentation, which I'm sure will be interesting. Over to you, General Dushyant.
Thank you, sir. Actually, the question about the three major personalities of China who have shaped its destiny in the past since the Communist Party of China came into power after throwing out the Kuomintangs uh, has been quite colorful, checkered, and with glorious periods also in between. And there are these three leaders who have really shaped the Chinese destiny. And I am referring to Mao and then Deng and thereafter Xi. Uh, in fact, you will realize that there is a common thread of the other two leaders, that is Deng and Xi. You see, Deng was purged by Mao, and Xi's father was purged by Mao. Somewhere it throws a question to somebody's mind: are personalities in China bigger or the Communist Party of China bigger? That we will keep it to the end and see as to which one is bigger, or both are symbiotic with each other. With this, we will get into our personality comparison. What I have done for comparing is, first of all, since these three leaders have lived in three different, or one of them is living, have lived in different eras, in different situations. So, is it fair to compare them? In my personal opinion, no, it's not fair to compare them, but they do throw certain important commonalities and similarities which have shaped China. First, I have compared it with an aggregator. That means a political scientist or a political personality who was an aggregator, who would always like to look at the similarities of the personalities. Then I have tried to compare it with the expertise which I had of human resource development, where I was an instructor, where we'll be looking at simply the traits method of analysis of personality of a person. And the third one will be a current scientist, political scientist, who has compared it based on observed behavior. So you will get a three different results, right? So then we can make a reference. The first one is Henry Kissinger, which most of us would be knowing, those who follow the geopolitics. He has tried to look at the positives of each of these leaders. So first, if you take Mao, what he says is Mao unified China, and rightly so. Actually, more than unified, he has expanded also China. I mean, he included the other parts, peripheries of the proper core Chinese, Han Chinese area, and added Tibet, etc. Xinjiang, Tibet, Mongolia, all these three, Manchuria, there they call it. So all these three regions were added into them, and they are continuing to expand into the South China Sea, etc. Basically, his philosophy is continuing. But my view is that he was a revolutionary, an autocrat, purged his opponents, including Deng, which I referred to, and he believed that solution was always in revolutions. So whatever problems with the China as a country had, the only solution was create a revolution. Then you look at Deng. Deng himself had been purged, but where his personality stands out is that he was a fighter in the sense he lied low, hide your intentions, bide your time. I think he learned it from this particular incident when he was purged by Mao. He hid his intentions, lied low, and then when the opportunity came his way, he actually transformed China. So in my view, the golden period of China, we must give credit to Deng Xiaoping. The
If I
only
may
blot.
add, if I may add
Yeah.
one thing is that Deng was also a superb organizer.
Yes,
He was so
absolutely.
superb at organizing that he, even after purging, they had to bring him back. He was so efficient that they could not ignore him.
Yes, he had his links maintained at the levels which were
Levels,
important,
yeah.
which are important in a monolithic party like CCP or Chinese Communist Party. Also, he for the first time evolved a new concept of development for China, which was referred to him by as socialism with Chinese characteristics. We'll talk a little more about it as we go ahead. So I would say he's the father of modern China, without doubt, with Tiananmen Square as a blot on his overall performance. Mind you, there are some reports which say that possibly he was not in favor of a hard hand, but he let it go. And when he found that ultimately the Chinese Communist Party, PLA, had succeeded, so therefore he kept quiet about it. He did not really oppose it. Then you look at Jiang Zemin. What Henry Kissinger says is that he got this China into the international arena. He got them into the WTO in 2001, and from there, if you see their growth curve, it really shot up. I mean, the growth started going to the levels of 8 to 9 to 10% per year, so which was a very good step, I suppose, which Jiang Zemin took. Credit for this should go to him, as also overcoming the ill effects of Tiananmen Square. I think he played down China in a manner that the Tiananmen Square was slowly forgotten, and China was looked upon as a different entity, possibly more cooperative than competitive in nature. But when Hu Jintao took over from Jiang Zemin, I think this many people refer to it as the era of lost years. That means China somewhere started going downhill because of his lackluster personality, performance, and I think low risk taking capabilities. That was one of his biggest nemesis. That he really didn't uh, come out with anything which was going to keep China moving further. In Chanakya's Niti, you call it as you have to be always in motion. I think
Yeah, he was
somewhere,
drifter. He was a drifter.
yeah,
He
somewhere
let things drift.
yeah, he let China rumble along. That was, I
Yeah.
think, the mistake. On the other hand, if you look at Xi Jinping, he is leading China by taking ideas from all previous. This is Kissinger's statement, right? What he feels is that Xi Jinping picked up ideas of every one of these guys on top, which we have referred to, and he has started moving China with that particular tool which he has. But is it succeeding? Is the question which I ask. If he succeeds in taking China to the cleaners, he'll be comparable to Mao and Gorbachev. Is my assessment for the future. To me, it looks like he's going to follow this particular route, because as we go ahead, I'll tell you what kind of personalities which come out both as per the political scientists and as well as per the traits analysis. right? So we'll move to the next one and discuss, because so let's see. Uh, what do you consider before you discuss a leader? First of all, the leader himself. Everybody is born with certain qualities, and everybody acquires certain qualities because of his environment through which he goes through, or through which he rises up in a hierarchy, or in an organization. So Mao was, in my view, a charismatic autocratic person. It has been proved scientifically, and I've done a study on this, that Mao was considered a very highly charismatic personality, very high charismatic personality. Uh, you look at Deng, I think Deng was bureaucratic democratic. The point which you made about organizational capabilities, this is
Yeah,
where it comes out. This is where it comes out that Deng had this ability to get people to work towards a common goal. I think that was with their complete compliance and with their full cooperation. Whereas the autocrat will force his view. Deng had a little open view on everything, and he showed it on ground also. His behavior on ground and his personality matched, except, as I said, Tiananmen Square, which is a blot on it. Now you look at Xi Jinping. What Kissinger said, na, कि सबका उसने थोड़ा थोड़ा मिला लिया. So what he has done, he is using bureaucratic methods, but autocratic in his approach. That means he is using a rule or a law to serve his ends. So this is the difference between the three. I think somewhere he thought that he's going to be smart. He will become a little bit of Mao and become a little bit of Deng. Result is that he's not leading to anywhere. Anyway,
yeah. You know what? I read a article in New York Times some time back where
yeah.
it was said, Xi Jinping
Hmm.
looked dull and uninspiring,
Yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah, I read that. I read that. Yes.
Right, and that's why I laughed out again when I saw this, and that's because if there was, you know, Deng had said, hide your strength and bide your time.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Xi Jinping did hide his strength and he bided his time till he became the president.
President, president.
उसके बाद he done the ulta.
He done ulta. And as you see, as we go along, that will come out very, very clear,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
uh, and another thing which you notice in my analysis of the personality, I have not rated him a charismatic personality.
yeah. He is not.
He's not a charismatic personality.
Yeah,
He is, like I said, a bureaucratic autocratic kind of a person.
yeah.
Okay, let's look at the situation. Each one had a different situation. Like Mao was in a period when China was still fledgling. It was a nation in, I mean, it was a communist nation in formation. So therefore his period of characterized by a lot of upheavals. So you required a very dynamic person who could even control adversities. I think that is where Mao stood a little higher than all these guys. Then you look at Deng. Now Deng was looking at a China which was slightly educated, but still isolated from the world. I think he realized this thing, that if China has to go ahead, he must get it into the world community, or
Order.
global community. That is the success of China. Now, what you're looking at, see, I think that has got hidden because of
Yeah,
because of
distortion.
the slide. But what Z is doing is, Z is operating in a new era where China is already at a pedestal from where he has the danger of going down or going up. I am afraid. I yesterday I did a program in which I showed the graph of GDP. Actually, China
Yeah,
is a GDP hungry kind of a country, and you will
it's
realize
going
that,
down.
yeah, no, in 2023, it's going to go up to about roughly nearing
Yeah, yeah,
five.
4.5%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then
But
it will
from
go
there,
down again.
from there till 2028, at least the projections of World Bank are that it is going to
Mhm.
come down to about 2.93, which means tanking for 5 years is a major problem. 5 year प्लान तो उसका भट्टे में बैठ जाएगा, तो आगे कहाँ जाएगा वो? Okay, that's something which Xi Jinping's situation is what he is seeing in front of him. He is responsible for it, given the policies which he has followed in the last few years. Then you come at the group. Now, as far as the group was concerned, Mao was totally dealing with peasantry. uh, Deng was in a 50-50 kind of a situation. But what about Z? C is dealing with a highly urbanized China. Do you know that the sectoral share of GDP is 7% only for agriculture? India is at 20%, 20.59%. Industry is at 39 of China, and India is around 25. See, the balance which India is maintaining is ensuring its food security. But China is getting lopsided, and I think C has still not got hold of this. Although he's trying to reclaim and go outside and create some farmable, arable lands, etc. But I don't think it will meet the requirement of a country like China.
Hey, in fact, what you're saying is right because Xi Jinping, I, he is actually aware of the whole story. बिकॉज हर तीसरा 2 हफ्ता 3 हफ्ते के बाद न्यूज आइटम कम्स आउट वेर ही गोज टू सम technical university or to agricultural universities and he talks of increasing farm production and
Yeah,
agriculture.
that's
He
right.
also knows that his food security is at risk. इसने बोला कि our rice bowl cannot be in someone else's lap.
Correct.
He
But
is aware, but he's
yeah,
not been able to do anything about it. That's
yeah,
the trick.
that is because he's not been able to manage the environment well.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That you remember we spoke about water security,
Yeah, yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah. No, no.
So somewhere I think China is facing even bigger problem than Pakistan as far as
Food is,
land and water security are concerned.
I mean, let me throw it in. They, which I have also discussed many times, they have uncontrollable problems. I mean, I don't know whether they have this problem under control of lack of arable land, lack
Yes,
of agricultural produce, right,
water,
and water, and this is all compounded by some of the biggest climate threats it's facing. The
absolutely.
climate threats you and I face is nothing compared to what China faces,
What China is facing. Okay,
right?
so
And I
let's
mean, this is my 2 bits, if I may add. This is one of the biggest problems China is going to have as days go by.
as days goes by. So we'll move forward, sir.
Yeah, yeah,
Go to we'll go to the next one, sir. Sir, now I will compare the traits. How have we worked out the traits of the two leaders? The method followed by this is a study done by an institution, I think Rand, if I'm not sure. I'm forgetting the site from where
yeah,
I.
yeah. That's okay.
But this is an authentic study which has been carried out. They have picked up the speeches of the two leaders, that is
Yeah,
Mao and Xi Jinping, picked up the words, key words, and then derived their personality. So there is a method in madness while carrying out the analysis. So first of all, they have taken into account that Mao was a revolutionary leader in a revolutionary period, and he was in a secluded environment and from the international community. So that factor has been taken by them into account. Then, in the speeches, they found that Mao was mostly pessimistic in his tone, which came as a surprise to me, and he was highly critical of the others. That means he was actually highlighting the problems of the country. So therefore, he was pessimistic in nature, and then he attributed all this to the others, not to himself. And
yeah.
that is where
That's there.
that
Because
is a
if you remember, he is a product of that Boxer revolution. He is a product of the nationalist movement. After all, he and
correct,
Chiang Kai-shek were students of Sun Yat-sen,
correct,
right? And this fellow fell out. Then the Japanese invaded,
correct.
and a whole lot of things happened.
Yeah, so
So,
you're right.
yeah,
Century of humiliation was playing on these guys' mind. So let's take the. He was in a constant struggle and evolution. That was his second, third characteristic which they found. Then keywords, they have been compiled like mathematics, and the gist of these keywords were people he has used the maximum. The people, the people, the people. I mean, his speech was always characterized by the people. Then enemies was the second highest used word. Enemies, whether internal or external. This defines his characteristics. And the third for these two was that the way out is revolution. Then he tried to advance the CCP, but he did not hesitate in breaking it also through a revolution, parallel revolution. And that's how the Gang of Four, etc., came up during the Cultural Revolution, which everybody is aware. We're not going to waste our time on that. Then speeches were given before every major initiative, sir. And most of his initiatives, because he was pessimistic in nature, in the end resulted in crackdowns and purges. So somewhere the personality of Mao is getting evolved through these scientifically correlated and collected speeches of his. His over, I think, over 200 speeches have been taken into account in this.
Yeah, and
Whereas for, yeah,
one
whereas for
point,
Mao, Haan sir, go ahead.
Mao, you also have to see that he lived in an environment and he was leading China in an environment where he had problems with the nationalists on
Yeah,
one side, he had problems with the Japanese on the other side,
yeah,
and he had problems with the colonial powers also on the third side.
yeah, Hong Kong, etc. So he
Yeah,
was like Taiwan,
he
Hong
was,
Kong.
हाँ, Taiwan, Hong Kong, और ये इनके साथ तो इनका, and especially the Britishers, after the Britishers
Yes,
had the biggest presence there, right? And the church played a big role in China, especially in South China.
okay, okay,
So he that is why this fellow was actually very offensive and all that. So
correct.
he had his problems. He's shaped by the
No,
situation and the environment.
so that is why I'm saying, sir, that he was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
person who he had that charisma within him to
I'm
lead
all
people.
I'm doing is adding on to whatever you're saying.
Definitely, sir. If you look at Z, sir, Z has been, in a post-revolutionary period, China on the rise and member of the global community. We've already discussed. His personality comes across as optimistic, slightly critical of current practices of the party. That is where he's slightly going wrong. Unity, cooperation, moving forward, and new ideas seem to be the key words of his.
Hmm.
That are the words. What happens on ground is different story.
Yeah, yeah,
But when
that's
he
okay.
when he's talking, he's
Yeah.
talking of unity, he's talking of cooperation, he's talking of moving forward together, and he's talking of new ideas to lead China into a new era. That's the way he talks about. Then he believes in general and economic reforms. He's working towards that. He's working towards eradication of corruption. Chinese dreams for a new era, I've already spoken about, expresses how the new administration will be oriented and to stress the expectations from the CCP leaders. He lays down that I expect CCP leaders to follow A, B, C, D. It's kind of a diktat which he gives out in his speeches.
Yeah.
All this personality has led actually to him to go in for campaigns such as anti-corruption, moving the Chinese dream forward. So
Yeah.
like him, he is also trying to benchmark his initiatives with speeches and then take it forward, sir.
Yeah.
So
If I may add to these words, which, off late from the
mhm.
20th Party Congress, if you see,
Yeah,
and also in the two sessions, which is the thrust,
yeah,
is on security.
that's right. We'll
Security
come.
now, it's coming back, and unity, cooperation, moving forward, new ideas were basically fundamentally an internal dimension.
Yes,
In the external dimension, whether you call it, he converted the global development initiative into a security initiative and now into a civilizational initiative.
correct,
And he talks of security, and he talks of threats unseen in the past century and things like that.
correct,
So
correct.
that
Which is
part,
totally, yes,
which
sir.
today is, will have, which is overshadowing his thinking.
Absolutely. So that is where now my third analyst comes into play, which is
Okay.
Schonberg.
Uh,
Schonberg, he is
Shambhav,
a
yeah.
Yeah, he is a political scientist, right? But after I summarize the traits analysis of his personality, we will cover that.
Yeah,
So there were actually these six major heads under which the personality types of the two leaders was covered. First is conceptual complexity, which means that given a complex situation, how do the two leaders behave? In the case of Mao, he's rated as high. That means he is not likely to seek information from the others before taking a decision. He believes in his capability that he will be able to surmount the problem. If you look at Xi Jinping, it is medium. That means he's open to certain ideas, certain thoughts from the others as well. And that is where the bureaucratic personality dimension comes in. Belief in control over events, both are medium. That means he they do not believe that they can really control the events. Okay, any major event which is happening, whether in the country or outside the country, etc. But on ground, it is not borne by facts. On ground, these guys have actually done the other way around. They have introduced initiatives to control events. So somewhere personality trait analysis comes out a little different from the observed behavior. The reason being, sir, and I'll tell you, sir, which is there in the fourth bullet after we cover the other two. Self confidence. Mao had a greater self confidence than Xi Jinping, which reflects in the way, like you just said, the New York Times had a photograph of. In fact, there is an article which says a lone man at the top about Xi Jinping. So
yeah,
currently he is for 600 days he did not go out of his country. Somewhere the self confidence has taken a beating as far as Xi Jinping is concerned. Task orientation, both have said medium, medium. These are the traits under which we analyze
yeah,
personality.
yeah. I understood.
But in my view, again, I think task orientation of Xi Jinping is quite high, and so is that of Mao, because observed behavior is a different.
Hmm.
Then you look at the distrust, and this is where you connect with the belief in control over events. That means their speeches are a facade. In the heart of heart, both are high on distrust. They do not trust others. And Mao was very, very high on distrust. He would not believe you even if he's talking to you. There is an incident when he was negotiating with the nationalists. He agreed to them and went back and started the revolution, long
Yeah,
march. He just did the opposite.
yeah.
He never,
No one trusted Mao.
yes.
Not even
So
his own friends trusted Mao. In fact, he didn't have any.
absolutely. In group bias, both have
Hmm.
shown in their speeches that they have low in group bias, which means, sir, within the society, they do not have biases against A, B, C sect. I mean, Han Chinese or
Hmm.
Tibetans or whatever it is. But on ground, what they have done,
It's different.
it's totally different. So somewhere they come out as facade like all dictators do.
So that means they have a schism.
Yes,
So
they have,
the main thing is these chaps had a schism,
yes.
uh, and that schism will show up into some kind of irrationality at some point of time or the other.
Sometimes, and that is where we are saying that the comment which you made the other day, I think it's in one of the talks which I was listening to, is that Imran and Xi Jinping are the
Xi
best friends.
Jinping. I, I don't I don't mind I don't mind repeating it.
Yeah,
Look, in my opinion, Xi Jinping and Imran Khan are India's best friends because
best,
these chaps
absolutely.
at the helm are destroying their respective countries.
Correct. So somewhere you see, sir, all these connects. When you give an opinion and you do a analysis through a different tool, somewhere they all connect to each
They
other,
all
and
connect. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
They, I mean, look, if all of us think that we cannot read the Chinese, they are
yeah,
inscrutable and all. But I think
correct,
if you focus on what you have to do
correct.
and you put your mind to it, it'll all come out. It's not a, it's not rocket science. After all, he's also got a brain. Even if it's a
Absolutely.
noodle eating brain, so be it.
Right, sir.
Right.
Next,
So, yeah,
yeah, next, let's go. Sir, so now we come to the political scientist,
yeah.
Shanbog. Shambog. He's basically a professor of Asian studies in political science and international affairs, and director of China policy program in the Elliott School of International Affairs at George Washington University. So he comes highly recommended person, and his articles are generally respected by people. What he says, sir, the similarities between Xi Jinping and Mao are that Xi has never criticized Mao, including purging of his father. So
Yeah, actually, I
somewhere
find I mean, this is something which I would like you to probably see. Why has he not done this?
that is what I'm saying, sir.
Uh-huh.
Because why he hasn't done it is because he somehow wants to emulate Mao.
That.
So if he starts criticizing him, how
Mm.
will he emulate him?
Okay.
And he says that even if he purged his father, he did it for the right cause,
Okay.
because he is himself going to purge and is
All right.
purging and is purging the way Bo Xilai, the way Hu
Hmm.
Juntao, the
ये
way
सबको कर रहा है.
Li Kuei Kang, all these guys have been shown the door, is just to say when I am not criticized my father's purging. Who are
How
these
can I
guys?
let you go? Who are these guys? Yeah.
So that is
So
the
so
that this
that
question.
means, if I put things into perspective, it's that I'll just go back in the slides. Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
see the slide again, because we'll have to put this in perspective. He wants to
See,
be bigger than the rest.
absolutely. That's what I'm saying. So he thinks he's already there, and he's now
But
going to go up,
yeah,
going. This is going to become 1, 2, 3 now, I suppose.
yeah. I agree with you completely. That's the yeah. So
Yeah,
this is the
go
one.
back.
Yeah, yeah. This is the one.
Both are proud nationalists. I think
Yeah,
that it goes without saying. Mao and Xi are both dictators. Mao a totalitarian and Xi a neo-totalitarian. Why I have referred to Xi Jinping as neo-totalitarian, sir? He's created a facade of opening up, facade of
yeah,
unity, cooperation, all that thing which you heard of. So he's covered his totalitarianism into some kind of a garb of acceptability. Both have fostered sycophantic cults and personalities, very clearly seen now in Xi Jinping's third tenure. He has virtually removed every opposition, right from the party congress up to the
yeah. He is absolutely वो पूरा उसका उसने साफ कर दिया उसको.
and including the government, including the CMC. Everywhere he's got people connected to him.
And this is
Both have
something which, no, mind you, this is something which even Mao couldn't do.
yes, but Mao had his cult. Mao had his cult. A
No,
charismatic
Mao had
person.
his. I mean, what I'm trying to put across is Mao had his cult, but
Yeah,
Mao had his detractors also,
that's right. Because he was charismatic.
charismatic. And Mao, though he purged people like Deng Xiaoping, he could not purge them the way this fellow is doing.
Yes, although they say that Mao has purged more number of people than Xi Jinping as per the record. But you have to see Mao's tenure and Xi Jinping's tenure.
No,
If
that is what.
If Xi Jinping increases his tenure, probably he'll match Mao.
No. What I'm trying to put across is in terms of purging is that Xi Jinping has been more effective at purging the system than
Yes,
Mao was.
yes, that's because handle of bureaucratic.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, and both have introduced their thoughts,
Yes.
the Mao thought and the Xi Jinping thought. We'll
Yeah.
not go into what are his thoughts.
Yeah, we
Mao
know
has,
that.
Mao has despised differences. If you see,
Yeah.
Mao despised institutions of the government and CCP, almost
Mm.
destroyed the party during the Cultural Revolution. Xi believes in strong institutions, but under his control.
Yeah.
Xi venerates past and traditional culture of China. Mao actually was a total
Yeah, he
hardcore
did. Yeah.
dedicated communist.
Okay.
Mao did not pay any attention to laws, but this is where I'm telling, sir. Xi uses them as instrument of rule.
Lawfare.
He, yes,
Lawfare.
he will use the rule to tighten the screws.
Tighten the screws.
Right, sir. We go to the next one. Now let's see the Deng and Xi's comparison. Mostly people would be knowing. I want to focus on the first bullet, sir. Deng emphasized on socialism with Chinese characteristics. That means Deng realized socialism has a, a particular set of rules, but Chinese characteristics have to be implanted on them to make it suitable for China. Look at what Z says. Z in his speeches says socialism with Chinese characteristics is the socialism.
Correct.
See the difference between the two. Removed rest of it, everybody knows, sir. He was an open, collective,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no personality cults, merit-based recruitment, promotions, intra-party. Whereas Z has been just the opposite of everything. He has to be having his loyalist. He has to have his own way. All those things are there in the things. Z, on the other hand, has zero tolerance for intellectual freedom. This fellow, no, he will listen to your idea. I mean, Z will seek your ideas, but ultimately do what he wishes to do, right? Foreign policy was based on that, famous saying, hide your strength, bide your time. He has placed military modernization first. Z had in the modernization goals.
It was the
uh,
last.
Deng had the last.
That part of the four modernizations which he started, military
It's
was the
last.
last. That, yeah.
Deng was last, and here it is first, and that is where your first point, which you said, over securitization is coming.
Over, yeah.
Uh,
Everything is over securitized.
securitization is coming in the approach of Xi Jinping. So therefore, Xi Jinping is likely to take more irrational steps than possibly what was happening in the past, sir. And this is, unfortunately, to my mind, would be reflecting in both internal policies and external policies. How much of it, unless there are some very good advisors whose ideas he decides to take, I think, and that's a question which we are unable to answer at this stage.
Let me connect it to something on ground. What you said. Actually, you said something very important. I want to highlight it.
Yeah.
You said that Xi Jinping tends to be more irrational and take irrational decisions. If he is to be more irrational, then India has a problem. The reason
Yes.
being, rationality suggests that he should go towards Taiwan.
Correct.
Irrationality suggests that he should come towards India. And the thing on ground is that in the past 10 years, he's turned more towards India militarily than
Absolutely.
any other one in the history of China.
Correct.
And
Correct.
he's not gone anywhere towards Taiwan. And yet, most of us believe that Taiwan is his first priority and not India.
He's showing only teeth to Taiwan,
Yeah,
whereas whereas biting the India.
biting in India. That's why I wanted to highlight this and take the
Then,
slide out and have a one-to-one between you and
yeah,
me on that.
glare at Taiwan, bite
And
India.
yeah, fight. So he's hiding his strength here
Yeah.
and biding his time against us. So that's what we have to be very careful of with this fellow.
Possibly he believes India is a low hanging fruit.
Yeah, maybe.
Common perception which the world community has, that India does show a very soft projection of its power. So
Yes.
that is something which we have to take care of in our approach as far as
Yeah,
we
yeah,
are
I
concerned.
agree with you completely, and that is the reason why we do these off-key analysis, because it's from this off-key
Somebody should have,
analysis, thinking out of the box, we'll get something.
yeah,
Otherwise,
and
तो आप
somebody,
रोज बात
correct.
करते रहो, मिसाइल का इतना रेंज है, रशिया के पास इतने मिसाइल है, हमारे पास इतना प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी है, वो उसके कोई फायदा नहीं है, बिकॉज उसको सोच नहीं है, तो क्या फायदा हुआ?
Will
Yeah,
and determination, yeah, will to use your power is
is
something
more important.
comes from personalities, right? So
Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
very
That's why.
important. Yeah. So let's go to
Okay.
the. I think we have finished this. Let's go to the next one. And this is now coming to the outcomes. What we were talking of, the impacts. The impact of core leadership on conceptual approach towards the world as such. Mao had a deceit, distrust, and a closed expansionist kind of an approach. Deng had a pragmatic and a realistic, high intention, bite time, economic predominance approach, and therefore he was slightly more confident. But Z, which is important for us, what does he do? Couched international relations, facade of global peace, and cooperation to cover his expansionist intent. Debt trap, military bases, all these are uh, things which he's doing just the opposite of what he should have done till he reaches a particular level. So therefore, I think he's more dangerous from that point of view, that uh, he is doing both together. He's not waiting for the time to come. He's hiding his intention, but immediately acting upon them also.
Yeah, I agree with you
So,
completely.
so that time lag is not there. What Deng had in his mind, that yes, give yourself, hide your intentions for a longer period. He feels that probably that time is over now. We have hidden our intentions quite enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we have the power, but we must remind Z that his expenditure of 260 odd billion dollars is nowhere near, is 6 times less than the American expenditure.
Oh, it's not only that. The point is that
I'm
we
talking
have
of
to
the
be,
only hard power, sir.
yeah, hard power. No, I'm also talking about the fact that what you said again. The important point about Z, which you highlighted in this last slide, is while Deng Xiaoping said hide your intention and bide your time. This fellow feels that it's his time.
This time has
He
come.
feels his time has come. So why should I
Yes.
hide it?
Why should I hide it now? The
Why should
hide
I
has
hide
gone out
it?
of his, hide has gone out
The-
of window.
we- uh, uh, so let's be open and clear about it. I think that's
Correct.
the important thing which you have highlighted, which I think we need to note.
And we should take a note of it.
Note of this. Yes, I am with you completely.
I mean, we should be very careful with the forthcoming G20. The way he has started giving statements, etc. We need to really secure our house well for that event to go more
Well,
successful.
in especially in this one in tourism, one in Srinagar.
That's what I'm saying. So that
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
I'm referring to that one. Okay. What can India expect? Greater emphasis on conflict over cooperation. I think we should forget that there is going to be any more cooperation as a dimension. It is likely to remain conflictual as far as the relation is concerned. Keep its regional competition on the boil, which is India, and he will continue to do those, like you said, biting of India's, vulnerabilities which are there in front of him, and isolate India internationally and regionally. It has already started as far as the Srinagar case is concerned. He, they are already building up a environment where they are trying to, come to a kind of a solution, kind of a narrative where they're saying that having a G20 in Srinagar, etc., is not uh, advisable. Trying to
Yeah,
make a movement out of it. This is all reflecting in what I have listed here on the slide, just for the information of the people. So therefore, we expect these three major threads to work against India in the future, based purely on their personality analysis, which has taken into account an aggregator, a political scientist, and a traits analysis management,
yeah, and it is also being reflected on ground.
and as being reflected on ground.
Yeah, it is corroborated on ground, so it gives credence to what we normally talk of off the handle, right?
Correct. Next, sir. So, what can we expect in the future? A synthesized profile of C. Child from a banished father's family to become the most powerful man in China, and now maneuvering to become the most powerful man in the world. Dangerous, highly dangerous. A
Yep.
person with a very high ambitious intent. Autocratic nationalist with a steely resolve, intolerance to opposition, and high ambition appear to be characteristics, breaking the concentric circle theory. The idea of BRI, etc., came up basically to go beyond the first year, which they have still not been able to break up. And we've been speaking about the forefronts, etc. He doesn't want to get hemmed into this forefront opposition which he has around him. And of course, nationalist ideology will continue to continue to dictate his behavior. He'll be coercive by nature, sir. He'll be coercive by nature, and in any negotiation we should be prepared for that, sir. What can we expect in the future? Xi Jinping thought socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era has an agenda, sir. And these agendas are reasserting the state economy, overtly rooting out corruption, but covertly eliminating his
Elimination, elimination,
opposition.
opposition.
Yeah. Enhancing parties read his image.
Yeah,
Enhancing party image is what he's speaking. But given the analysis which we did, enhancing his own image.
yeah, that's
Almost,
what he's done. That's what he
yeah,
did with in the 20th Party Congress when he said two establishes.
correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Almost eliminated the role of senior veteran. Sir, there was a trend in China that even though he had relinquished, Deng had relinquished, before that Mao had relinquished, they used to continue to give CCP a direction, give the new leader a direction. All that he has eliminated. He just told them, thank you, partner. Goodbye,
get
Tata.
lost. Mm.
Goodbye,
Yeah, I
Tata.
agree with you. Yeah, yeah,
Firm
yeah,
but overtly polite denial towards Indian issues. We
yeah.
cannot expect an agreement as of today, sir, on any issue. Facade of a peace broker will continue. The so-called famous peace plan, which you heard,
It's
that
all
is,
bunk.
it's all going to go bunk. As far as the what is the outcome of the observed behavior? China's poor and deteriorating international reputation, as measured by public opinion, poor human rights record. I think he's going to slide down because of these reasons. Human
Mm.
rights record, Hong Kong, military build-up opposite Pacific and the opposite Pacific and opposite India, wolf warrior diplomacy. He's giving fuel to fire. He is
Mm.
appointed the father of wolf warrior diplomacy as the defense minister,
Mm.
sorry,
Yeah.
foreign minister, as the foreign
Mm.
minister.
Kingan. He
So
was the original wolf warrior.
original wolf warrior.
Mm.
Uh, Claims to the South and East China Sea are going to continue to remain in its focus. The United States is already seen as a common threat in Russia and China, and it is one reason why China and Russia relations are so close. But will Russia align with China? No. Why? Because of Russia's own past
Uh,
glory and stance, and of course, Putin is a much more harder autocrat than Xi
no, yeah,
Jinping,
he's not only autocrat, he's quite a crafty autocrat also.
and he has the willingness to use power, sir,
Yes. Whereas this
which
chap doesn't have.
he develops cold feet.
Yeah.
He develops cold feet, sir. I think we've come to the end of our presentation.
Yeah.
So this is just to say that continued build-up and border-level transgressions along the northern. This is on the ground. In the next 10 to 12 years, we will see this. Economic competition will intensify, sir. Technological dominance. I think this is where we will have to really focus on, and this is where he will try to overshadow India. And India is
India.
doing it, and India will have to navigate through a mix of times, sir,
That's there
and
no doubt.
and
Okay.
patience. This is
I
your
you
thing.
know, yeah,
You can
what
take over.
I'll put this across. I did this as part of my economy study, right? But it is relevant here. Now, if
Yeah.
you see these cartoons, in the first cartoon, which is in the center, he's trying to follow Deng's footsteps. In
That's
the
right.
right bottom cartoon, he's pushed out Deng and he's shook hands with Mao. And in the right top cartoon, he's riding a dragon to be above Mao and Deng. He's a
Absolutely,
complex
absolutely
guy. And
correct.
these are caught across by three different, guy things. So you see that this man is quite a guy. He's quite a complex chap. Okay. Now let me go through these bullet points very quickly. Mao did the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward. Everyone knows, documented, unitary, very clear, whatever it goes. Deng Xiaoping, apart from everything else, he also, blessed China with a one-child policy. In fact, it is
Blessed,
curse. It's a
blessed.
curse. नहीं, blessed or cursed, जो भी बोलो आप. हाँ?
Yes.
So वो एक शाप है उनके लिए. That will ensure that China will eventually decline. Okay. You look at Z. I call it the Great Leap Backward, and I've written an article about it. Now, if you see his Z thought and the Great Leap Backward and the BRI are of one at one point of time in the first part of his tenure. So that is, he showed one set of traits there. In the second part of his tenure, which is, his second tenure, or rather his second term at
Com-
the top. He
Common
spoke
prosperity.
of common prosperity, zero COVID, dual circulation, and he cracked down on big tech, ed tech, real estate, all that. And then in the 20th Party Congress, he spoke of two establishes and two safeguards. And then he
Correct.
started this Geet of security. Matlab, he changed course in this at the end of the second 5 year. The third 5 year term, he is starting with another story. He talks of technology. He talks of switch from China, which can double its economy by 2035, which he said in 5 years back. Now he
Yes.
says black swan and grey rhino events he expects. Okay, but he still talks of a sinocentric world order. And his idea, I mean, his very core idea is he wants open doors for China, but China will keep its doors firmly shut for others. Okay,
Absolutely.
so that's his problem, and that's where this is something which, when I saw your slides, I said I must put this also in.
Yeah, these are clearly indicators of observed behavior on ground. You know what
On
he is
ground.
doing,
Yeah, what is
with
doing.
the personalities which he has come across.
Then the next thing which I did, and this is something which I keep doing on and off. The Chinese are very worried that their model will go the USSR way.
Yeah, that
So
happened.
yeah,
It
so
started
I
off in your Pink's time only.
yeah. So what is the left is the USSR model. The communist opacity hit their hollowness. The hollowness is now developing in China. Corruption
Yes.
was very high. Corruption is very high in China also. There's a loss of faith in communist ideology which actually collapsed the Russian system.
Correct.
That is showing up today with increasing protests. Right? Uh, 2 days back or yesterday, day before, someone gave me a thing. I don't know whether it's right or not. I believe it is moving about in the social media circles. It says, someone has said, my grandfather worked for the CCP. My father worked for the CCP. I have worked for the CCP. I am very clear that my son will not work for the CCP.
Yeah, that is something which is a very telling statement.
Telling statement, if it is, and it is originated by obviously Chinese. So there is some issue there in the loss of faith in the communist ideology. That
Okay.
they had dismal standards of living in USSR. The standards of living in China today are going down. You see
Especially.
today in the there are a slew of YouTube videos which
Hmm.
talk of people in debt, people putting behind bars, XYZ. Okay. Then there was elite infighting in the USSR model. Here it is absolute rigid control. Okay.
Uh, Correct, sir.
Then this rigid USSR system could not reform. They were so rigid they couldn't reform. But here China is being subjected to double, triple reform. Every day
Yeah,
this fellow is coming out with something new.
something new.
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
Gorbachev wanted reform, but could not reset the Stalinist model back to the Leninist principles because Stalin was a hardliner. Lenin was not so hardliner. He was the original communist.
absolutely.
Okay. Now Xi Jinping is reforming a open. You go back into Deng. Before Deng, it was a closed society.
He's, do,
Deng,
he's, he's doing the other way around.
other way around.
Lenin to Stalin.
Stalin. So will he falter? Okay, personalities, personalized politics stunted institutions, especially during the Brezhnev era.
Yeah,
Same thing is happening now. Now,
correct.
inefficient government-owned factories could not produce what the people wanted, and what the people needed was not produced. Now, there's a
Yeah,
question mark: are these state-owned enterprises of China in the same track? So, the supply did not match demand in USSR. These two are question marks? We don't have conclusive evidence of this today in China. If this happens, you are feeling the USSR model replicating it completely. The Soviet
absolutely.
Union could not service its debt, the debt it had taken. China is in a debt bubble. Okay. Will that
Correct.
bubble sometime burst or it will become unmanageable? We don't know.
Correct.
USSR had an oversized military. China is also moving to an oversized military. So if you see, today China has, I think, least about 60 to 70%, similarity with the USSR model. And with what you have told about Xi Jinping, the chances of going the USSR way are quite,
Yes,
high.
I would like to add here, sir. One of the characteristics shows in group behavior, where
Yes,
both are shown as low, which means that they believed in group synergy, etc. But on ground, observed behaviors are different.
different.
Look at
So
the
there's,
USSR. Look at the USSR model, sir. Russia was the core, and there were the others. The Kyrgyzstanis and the
yeah, 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 yeah.
Tajikistanis, and all those people were the out groups. They were the ones which just split away from there.
Yes.
The kind of thing which we are seeing in China, I think we may see something similar happening with
We'll see.
Tibet,
And
Manchuria,
there's also,
uh,
there's also a
Hong
history
Kong.
of,
Why not Hong Kong also? Very
yeah,
prime
yeah,
candidate.
possible. See, if you look at the Chinese history, there is one typical thing. First and foremost, the Chinese empire stopped at the Great Wall of China. After all,
Yes.
why did the Great Wall of China come? Because they wanted to protect the Han Chinese from outsiders.
Pessimist, sir.
No, apart from pessimists, actually
आएगा
the
मेरे पे हमला करेगा, मेरे पे हमला करेगा, मैं अपने आप
yeah,
को बचाता हूँ, दीवार
no,
लगाता हूँ.
that is one way of looking at it. The deeper way I'm looking at it is that was the outer boundary. Anyone outside the other side was not China. So you wanted to protect China. The
That's
Chinese
second.
dynasty, it's a political boundary of your system.
Correct.
So anything outside the Great Wall of China is not Chinese.
Absolutely,
And
that's
the
the correct.
history of the Chinese empires and his dynastic history suggests whenever the Chinese center was strong, Tibet, Mongolia, Manchuria, and all these outlying islands were under their control. Whenever it was weak, these people raised their flag of independence or autonomy. So, are
Correct.
we going towards that as a question? I mean,
Yeah.
we will have to see,
that
right?
that is there, sir. A little difference from that time and this time is that these guys don't have their own military forces,
Yeah,
etc. So
all
there
that.
is some
There is
amount of,
difference,
yes,
but the issue which you have highlighted is that there could be separatist movements. In any case, they have a separatist movement in Xinjiang.
they have movements,
Uh, uh,
they have
yeah.
movements.
So these
But
things could come up.
if the Han Chinese start collapsing, even if they don't have the military wherewithal,
Yeah, that things
these
will.
guys these guys will drift apart. And what are the neighboring countries doing, sir? What is Russia doing? What is India
They'll do
doing?
something. They'll do
What is
something.
Russia doing? What is India doing? What is Mongolia doing?
Yeah,
Its territory has been,
taken
carved
away.
away
It's
from
been
the
carved
Chinese.
out of, and yeah, I agree with
Yes.
you.
So I think somewhere we will see some kind of a thing if the way Xi Jinping is going along, sir. I think, sir, we have
Covered
come to
yeah.
a
We'll
lot of
take some
ground.
questions.
Yeah, we've covered a
We'll,
lot of ground in a
yeah.
different manner, in a
No,
obliquely
no.
different.
I think I enjoyed myself. I don't know about others. I'm sure from the response I have on the chats, people have this thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There are
Yeah.
somebody said
Uh,
दी sir. I think गलती कर दी इस बार हमने.
क्या?
श्रेयान विश्वास से टॉक इन हिंदी. आई थिंक हमने थोड़ा मॉनिटर नहीं किया,
Oh,
थोड़ा हिंदी में
yeah,
बोलना
sorry,
चाहिए.
sorry, sorry. We couldn't speak too much in Hindi this time, so we will next time. Yeah, Shriyan, sorry, sorry. Please talk in Hindi. आज हमने बात नहीं किया. अगले बार हम ट्राई करेंगे.
जरूर बात
Uh,
करेंगे आप.
जरूर बात करेंगे. Okay. Right. So we'll go from bottom. Jayant Kashyap says there is no scope for glasnost in Z model of control. An openness will show hollow and shallow how strategy is. Comment. Okay. Yeah. Why should we be part of a SEO?
Hmm.
And aren't we making mockery of us?
Uh, you want to take on, or I'll
No,
take
take
this
on,
one?
take on.
I think as far as the SEO is concerned, you see, a platform serves some purpose. It is always to be on a platform and dictate your viewpoint, state your viewpoint, and come across with your interest being projected. As far as SEO is concerned, there are some positives as far as India is concerned. I mean, the economic angle we should not forget. Any country which loses sight of economy will actually come down in all other sectors as well. So from that perspective, I think SEO is a good platform to a first deride all those who are against us, and which we keep doing it, and b also work at other countries of the SEO with whom we have good relations.
Yeah, and we need Central Asian republics. You need Russia, right?
Absolutely.
So in a
That's why
area in a era of multilateral relationships, you need to engage. You cannot be away.
isolate them within the group only.
Yeah, yeah. There are Z needs a win to keep face. They can't attack Taiwan and win. Hence, India is the only choice. Thoughts. We've said that. That's what
Yeah,
we said. So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, why did Mr. Nehru not stand up to Mao? Why did we surrender Tibet rather meekly? It meant giving up Mount Kailash and Mansarovar. Why did we send just a protest note when they constructed G219?
Uh, these questions, in my view, have died along with Nehru
And Mao.
and Mao. And I think let's be a little fair also that at that point in time, India was also just struggling as a nation, trying to come out of 200 odd years of, uh, how should I say, slavery, and we were trying to find time to grow ourselves, and suddenly all these things started happening. Probably we didn't want to take the risk levels beyond a certain level. I think
See,
Nehru.
not only that, the fact is that you have to understand that China and India were young nations at that point of time. Both of us had just shed the yoke of colonialism and imperialism. There were some exchanges between China and India at that point of time. Both were poor countries. Both were beset with problems, right? And the world view, the way we are looking at it today, didn't exist at that point of time. Neither did communications
That's
exist.
what I said. So the era was different.
Era was different. So look, a lot of people say Nehru was wrong, all that. Uh, there's a limit to what you can say about a person so badly, right?
And
After all,
also, sir, I would add here that maybe we may have misread. Like the way we are
yeah,
talking.
yeah, yeah. We
We
would
may
have
have,
misread, and not
we
only
must.
that, you have to also understand that India itself was in pieces. We were still Hyderabad was not part of
We were
India.
trying to assimilate, make India into one.
One, right? It was more this thing. You had a problem in the northeast. Northeast problem started then itself. Portugal was not part of your system. Not Portugal, sorry, Goa,
Goa,
right?
Sikkim,
You had
Sikkim came as late as 1975, sir.
fine. And look, there's another important thing. Throughout the 50s and the 60s and even up to the 70s, balkanization of India was a live problem.
Yes.
Okay, the Pakistani offensive plans, military offensive plans, were aiming at balkanization of India. So there are other social things. People talk irreverently without understanding the time of this thing. So leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And we're
Last
not
thing.
so we are not supporting Nehru's.
We're not supporting, but you have to understand the time. That's
But
all.
maybe that he his advisors and others who
Yeah, but
probably
they
probably
were
got.
not good enough. They were not wild,
I,
world
I think
wise.
I think they didn't realize that China, being so young, will be in a position to attack. That is
Yeah.
somewhere they felt that possibly, and that is lies in the mouse characteristic, between
And
which
you
which was
probably they probably didn't assess more correctly also.
yeah,
So there are a lot
distrust.
of things distrust. We don't know. And I, I I am not a party to this general thinking that everything which is wrong with India starts with Pandit Nehru. No, I don't think so. A lot of what's wrong with India starts today also, but that will be judged by the next generation, not this generation. Okay, right. Can China create trouble for us by constructing a dam or by diverting water of river Satluj? They have created a lot of problems for downstream states of Mekong by weaponizing fresh water.
Sir, I have information on this. There
Yeah,
was a you remember there was a
flash flood.
glacier flash flood. in the Satluj
Yeah,
area,
upstream.
and DRDO came up with the DRDO SASE, the organization which looks after these
Mm.
things. They had come up with a study saying that there is a possibility that a certain artificial triggering of the glacier could have taken place from the Chinese side,
Yeah,
but no authentic other than this,
evidence.
there is no authentic data shared. So possibility is there, very much there, but I think we need to be
Little cautious in the way we
cautious and
assess things.
confident of this. Brahmaputra, they are already doing it.
Yeah.
Brahmaputra, they are already doing the diversion of water. So we have to, I think, fight for our. We have to work towards our interests, sir.
See,
Now we can't.
there's another thing which you must understand about Satluj. If you see the Satluj flow right from the top, uh, China can't do much beyond a point because if they stop the water flow, where will they take the water the other side? You see, that's the next thing. Yeah, what they can do is the cloud bursts, glacier bursts, things like that. But we have to be prepared for it. That's about all. If you're sitting with the enemy on top of you, you have to handle it.
In fact, the place where they are hurting us is the Brahmaputra.
Yeah,
There they are diverting water
they're
in a.
diverting again, but they say 80%. 80% of Brahmaputra water starts from others. You see the whole lot of seven tributaries of Brahmaputra.
Tributaries are
Where
there,
the damming is only one. It's on the
but that
main channel.
Sangpo is a major river, so they are
Yeah,
trying to.
Sangpo is the one, right? So that's the only one. But there are other things. If you put a dam on your side to mirror that dam, then you do a lot of damage control, right?
And plus, I think
There is something.
we are water surplus in the northeast in any
Yeah,
case.
yeah. What you? There's not a big deal. Okay, right. Should we adopt hide and bite strategy at least for another decade? देखिए ये आइडियली ये होना चाहिए कि हाइड एंड बाइड करो बट द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट क्या इस युग में ये कर सकते हो ठीक है ना बाकी करने देंगे ये प्रॉब्लम है हमारे लिए
बिल्कुल.
राइट
And
और
and to some
या
extent, everybody does, sir. Everybody tries to hide its intentions.
या
करते तो हैं, कोशिश की जाती है. It's always कोशिश रहती है कि हमारे असली इरादे ना सामने आए. इरादे वही दिखाएं जो हम लोगों को दिखाना चाहते हैं. क्यों नहीं, बिल्कुल करना चाहिए जहाँ तक हो सके. लेकिन आपको ये भी पता होना चाहिए रियलिटी डिजिटल एरा की क्या है. लोग आपके अंदर जा करके आपकी बातें सूंघ लेते हैं.
या
Yeah.
क्या
But
चीन पर कभी विश्वास कर समझौता हो सकता है
मेरा पर्सनल ओपिनियन है नहीं है.
नहीं
लेकिन इस पूरे फ्रेमवर्क में छोटे-छोटे अपने इरादे पूरे कर लेने चाहिए. Not the security related ones, but the smaller thing जो छोटी-छोटी स्कोप है एग्रीमेंट की, उसको करने में कोई हर्ज नहीं है इस समय. और उसका कारण ये है कि चाइनीज में जो विल टू यूज हार्ड पावर कम है और उसको हमें फायदा उठाना चाहिए थोड़ा.
आई एग्री
तैयारी
विद
रखें
यू
हम, तैयारी रखें हम 62 की तरह ना हो जाए कि बिल्कुल ये अच्छा वो करेगा नहीं तो इसलिए हम कोई तैयारी नहीं कर रहे हैं. वो नहीं करना चाहिए. हमारी तैयारी रहनी चाहिए. बट एक विंडो है, मेरे हिसाब से एक विंडो है जो कि हमको ये बताती है कि शायद थोड़ा स्कोप है, कुछ एग्रीमेंट हम कर सकते हैं. लेकिन एग्रीमेंट पे भरोसा करना वो हमारी बेवकूफ़ी होगी. 5 एग्रीमेंट हमारे तोड़ दिए उन्होंने एक साथ.
इनफैक्ट आज के दिन कोई ऐसा एग्रीमेंट नहीं जो उन्होंने थोड़ा नहीं
नहीं तोड़ा हो.
जोड़ा है ठीक है ना तो ये बात आपका सही है सो द लास्ट क्वेश्चन इज वुल्फ is it wolf warrior or barking dog diplomacy wolves don't bark they attack I haven't seen CCP taking any action against any country other than Australia well आप जो भी बोलो ना बोलो ठीक है ना दे डू दिस सो लेट्स अभी भी उन्होंने बोला है एक इनका
I think
एम्बेसडर ने पेरिस में बोला कि ऑल दो स्टेट्स व्हिच आर ब्रोकन अवे फ्रॉम रशिया आर नॉट इंडिपेंडेंट ये कुछ ये बोलते रहते हैं तो वी हैव
I
टू
think I think wolf warrior more of a rhyming word था
या
इसलिए. बाकी वो barking dog बोली है, wolf warrior बोली है, वो सारे एक जैसे ही हैं. They are all in the same boat.
राइट How do you rate Modi government dealing with China in comparison to Congress? As Subramaniam is very critical of Modi on China's matter. देखिए एक चीज मैं बता देता हूँ, ये ऐसा आप कंपेयर नहीं कर सकते हो कि मोदी का गवर्नमेंट अच्छा हुआ, वाजपेयी का गवर्नमेंट अच्छा हुआ या नेहरू का गवर्नमेंट अच्छा हुआ। हर एक गवर्नमेंट ने अपना अपना टाइम में अपना अपना निर्णय जो उनके सामने था, जिस तरीके से उनका वो उस वक्त का शतरंज का मोहरे थे जो बिछे हुए थे, उसके ऊपर उन्होंने निर्णय लिया। तो ये उचित नहीं होगा कि हर एक के ऊपर प्लस माइनस करते रहो, ठीक है ना? क्योंकि आज के दिन जो हम गलती कर रहे हैं हम गलती, कहीं ना कहीं तो गलती तो होता ही है। वो आज नहीं नजर आएगा आपको, ये आएगा अगले पीढ़ी को,
10-15
ठीक
साल
है?
बाद आएगा।
10-15 साल बाद आएगा। तो हर गवर्नमेंट ने, ये हमारा तजुर्बा है, हर गवर्नमेंट ने हमारा पूरा कोशिश किया उनके समझबूझ में क्या करना अच्छा है या नहीं है। कुछ आइटम सही किया होगा, नहीं किया होगा, पर बात यह है कि ओवरऑल आप देखिए तो हमारा सारे गवर्नमेंट पहले से कुछ तो अच्छा किया होगा कि हम इतने बड़ा शक्ति बन के उभर आ रहे हैं। ऐसी
और
बात
यहाँ
नहीं है।
और यहाँ पे आप एक चीज देखेंगे कि जब ये 1962 हुआ था, तो नेहरू को रियलाइज हुआ कि उसने गलतियां की हैं, और उसी वजह से उनकी डेथ हुई है। इनफैक्ट
डेथ हुई है।
one of the major reasons is that probably he realized it too late that
हम्म,
what he was doing was not
क्यों?
the right.
ठीक है, आप थोड़ा हमें राइट। ओके,
तो ऐसा
लास्ट
नहीं था कि
क्वेश्चन।
उनका इंटेंशन खराब नहीं था। प्रॉब्ली उनको लगा कि ये रास्ता हमारे लिए ज्यादा बेहतर है, और उस
या
रास्ते से वो चले। हम लोग भी तो ट्रस्ट किए थे, 5 एग्रीमेंट किए थे हमने, लेकिन गलमान हो गया। तो कहने का मतलब है कि इस तरह की जो पॉलिसीज होती हैं, ये ऐसा नहीं कि रातों रात बन जाती हैं। इन पे ऊपर काफी
देखिए,
डिस्कशन।
या व्हाट यू सेइंग इज राइट। आफ्टर ऑल किसने ये एमओयू किया 2003 में?
हम्म,
तिब्बत को रिकॉग्नाइज करना, 2003 तक तो हमने तिब्बत को रिकॉग्नाइज भी किया, वो वाजपेयी जी ने किया। इसका
करेक्ट।
मतलब ये थोड़ी ना है कि उनको आप गलत ठहराओगे। उन्होंने जो उस वक्त समझबूझ था उनका, अच्छा किया, बस बात खत्म। उस वक्त पाकिस्तान हमारे गले पड़ रहा था, उन्होंने यहाँ समझौता कर लिया और
बिल्कुल।
पाकिस्तान से हमने निपट लिया। तो ये वक्त की बात है, उससे ज्यादा मैं बात करने की जरूरत नहीं है। या हु इज अ पॉसिबल सक्सेसर टू जी इन सीसीपी? ये
Currently, he's removed every one of them. He's,
एवरीवन
he's removed every one
वो
of them, and
अमर बनने के चक्कर में है चाइना।
and, and मुझे मुझे लगता है कि अगले 10-15 साल तक तो वो किसी को आने देने की सोच नहीं
आने
रहा
नहीं
है।
दे। Okay, I think we had a long session. Thanks a lot, General Dushyant, and thanks a lot to all the viewers.
Thank you,
You
sir.
people have
Thank you, sir. Thank you
patiently
very
gone
much.
through this, and I see a lot of interesting comments. Right?
Yeah.
Good. I would like more interesting questions also. आप दोबारा मैं बता रहा हूँ, परसों के दिन मैं एक ओपन सेशन रखूंगा. We'll do a little update, and then you can put in your comment questions. I'll cull those questions out and handle them, and then we will take more on. Thanks a lot, and good evening, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. I think the others were also having fun.
Yeah, good session. Thank you. Thanks a lot,
Right.
Dushyant, for this.
Bye, sir. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, sir. Jai
Bye.
Hind.
Good evening.